Hello, my friends. Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World, and a very happy Monday from everybody here at Prime Sports World. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point, hopping right there from the Daily Blitz.blog. Our good friend and brother, Christian Simpson, breaking down the Super Bowl as we are only now just 5 days away. Christian, I have not felt great all day, and I'm just going to have to tough it out for this episode of the Prime.
Look, man, you got to do what you got to do. Well, first, David, I had a question. Did you miss me?
Yeah, I did, man. Always, dude, always. My world isn't the same without Christian Simpson in it.
Look, man, I appreciate that. But nah, man, it just seems like yesterday we were getting ready for week one, you and I, talking about all the week one games, doing our first shameless plugs of the year, and now we're at a Super Bowl. Like that's insane. Like I don't know about you, but for me, the NFL season and the college seasons, they just breeze by like that instantly.
Yeah, I mean it's tough because now I'm not sure what I'm going to watch on the weekends anymore. After
I know what I'm going to be watching. The back of my eyelids. I'm about to sleep.
But yeah, we'll see how things end up shaking out here. But yeah, please like, share, and subscribe to us here at Pride Sports World. So go check out the Daily Blitz blog for all of Christian's in-depth content, including in the off season. Or I'm sure he'll get into some mock draft stuff. Just getting some content over there at Daily Blitz blog. Once we get into the off season, and we'll move into some off season content here at Pride Sports World. So the content will not stop by any means, including tomorrow. We're breaking down the NBA trade deadline. I got a couple of really interesting predictions on a trade that I think are going to be interesting that I'll send to you later, Christian.
I want to see this. I want to hear this.
Let's get right into it, though. Let's get it. There are 2 left. We started the season with 32 teams, all with hopes of making it to this point, and now there are only 2 teams left, San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. The all-time series between these 2 franchises is actually 8-7 Kansas City, so they got a slight lead over San Fran. It doesn't help that they've won the last 3 matchups between these 2 franchises, including Super Bowl in 2020. We are now 4 years later, and now we have the same matchup. Different quarterback, at least in San Francisco side. Different running back, at least in San Francisco side. I guess in Kansas City too. New Tyreek Hill on the Kansas City Chiefs. But this is a very different matchup than we saw 4 years ago when these 2 teams locked horns in the Super Bowl, a game that was won by Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes winning his first Super Bowl MVP. But now we're in 2024. These teams are fairly close when it comes to metrics here. San Francisco, the number 2 rated offense. They're the 8th best defense. On the other side of Kansas City, they're the 9th best offense. They're the 2nd best defense. San Fran, 4th best passing offense, 3rd best rushing defense, and then 6th and 19th is respectively for the Kansas City Chiefs. As these 2 teams have gone through a gauntlet to get here. San Francisco had to get through Green Bay and then Detroit. Kansas City played their first 2 road games in the Patrick Mahomes era, beating the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills, along with the Miami Dolphins in the frigid cold in Arrowhead. And now they're set to take on each other in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. Christian.
David.
Let's go, baby. David, final one of the year.
We got to say it. Shameless plug, the finale.
Yeah, okay.
On my count.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Shameless plug finale, baby. Let's go.
Look, San Francisco, it's been such a, I don't want to say it's been a roller coaster year for them, because you remember they started 5-0. Everyone was calling them the best team in the league, especially after they punched Dallas in the mouth. Well, who don't punch Dallas in the mouth, right? I really think that loss to Cleveland humbled them. You remember when they lost their first game, then they lose that second game to Minnesota, and then they lose that other game to Cincinnati. I mean, I've been saying it all year, David. 2 things. 1, they're a physical football team, the 49ers. And when you play their style of football against them, they don't like that. If TJ were here, he would say it with me. The bully don't like to get bullied. Plain and simple. I think the turning point for this 49ers team was that game in Philly when they just absolutely dominated the Eagles and pretty much broke the Eagles, if we're being real. I know they didn't look all that great against Baltimore, but what have I also told you this year? The biggest threat to the 49ers was who? Themselves. Health. A key injury was going to keep them away. But I'll be honest, I haven't been impressed with them come playoff time. They should have lost that game to Green Bay because the Packers gave them.
They should have lost that game to Detroit. I mean, if you get the field goals.
The Lions did what I just talked about. They bullied them. Again, the bully don't like to get bullied. As far as Kansas City, I think everybody kind of threw the towel in on them when they lost to the Raiders on Christmas Day. But here's the thing about the playoffs. It doesn't matter where you're seated. It doesn't matter what your record is. All that matters is you're playing your best football when it matters most. And you know who this Chiefs team reminds me of, David? They remind me a lot of the 2018 Patriots. Everybody wrote them off. I even remember Tom Brady telling Tracy Wolfson, everyone thinks we suck. So, you know what? We're just going with the punches.
We're moving on to Cincinnati, right?
Yeah. Nah, that was 2014. 2014. Yeah, but when I look at this Kansas City team, they showed you in Baltimore that they can play a physical, nasty, aggressive, downhill style of football. They went into Baltimore and just took it, right? I mean, No fear. This is the best defense in the league, and Patrick Mahomes carved them up for the most part. He carved them up, but just what they did against Lamar Jackson, and you got to give a huge shout out to Steve Spagnuolo, because come playoff time, he knows how to put together a defense. I think the key for the 49ers in this game, they got to run the football. They got to establish Christian McCaffrey, because the Chiefs aren't that great when it comes to stopping the run. And the Chiefs, they need to run the football up the middle. I don't think they're going to win that battle bouncing the ball outside, because Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw are two of the best when it comes to pursuing the football. I'm looking forward to this matchup. Fred Warner versus Travis Kelce. I think it's going to be a key matchup to watch. And then I just want to see these Chiefs receivers who have actually been holding on to the ball as of late.
I mean, you deactivate, Nicole Hardman and Kadarius Toney.
Right. I want to see how they attack this San Francisco secondary, because they can be had. So there's going to be two parts to this for me. I'm going to do the written preview on Friday, and then Sunday I will record a video talking more, giving more analysis, talking about my X factors, and of course, who I have winning the game. And everybody I contribute for on the radio, including this gentleman right here, he will be tagged in it on Facebook. So be on the lookout.
And that's on the dailyblitz.blog. From the Prime Sports World side of this, we got the two other panelists as usually on the show, Izzy and TJ. Izzy's riding with the Kansas City Chiefs 27-24. TJ is going with the San Francisco 49ers 31-28. Both of them expecting high scoring affairs. And I tend to agree with them both when it comes to the high scoring potent. I think this is going to be a high scoring Super Bowl. I think it's going to be a really entertaining Super Bowl. I do have some big time concerns for Kansas City. When it comes to their offensive line play, Donovan Smith and Juwan Taylor have just straight up just not been good this season. They've been able to mask that a lot by just using Isaiah Pacheco, using that short running passing game a little bit more. Than you don't see Patrick Mahomes taking as many shots as we're accustomed to him seeing in past seasons. Also, he doesn't really have the squad to really take those shots, but they definitely have become a dip and dunk type of team. But that's a problem with San Francisco. They have a bunch of edge rushers that can really get after the quarterback. I mean, Javon Hargrave has been kind of quiet this season after he was a monster last year. Eric Armstead, Chase Young. I have heard some rumors that they may bench him for his lack of effort.
As they should, because I'm just seeing a lack of effort. Like, man, and it kind of makes me wonder, is this the reason why the Commanders got rid of him?
Because, for sure. I mean, they didn't pick up his fifth-year option for a reason. He was
right. You're right. So and Chase had all the potential coming out of college. I thought he was the best player in college football when he was playing for Ohio State behind Joe Burrow, of course. But when I look at this 49ers defense, you said it. They have they have a big three in that front seven: Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa. I think the most important piece, the guy that holds everything together, is number 54, Fred Warner. He is the closest thing I've seen to Brian Urlacher, David. And the reason why I say that, they have the same background. Fred was a safety, so was Brian. Both converted to linebacker, and they're both able to cover a lot of ground. I know Brian was able to cover a lot of ground, and so was Fred Warner. I've seen Fred drop back 30 yards with a slot receiver, and this is a linebacker. I honestly think Fred Warner is the best middle linebacker in the league.
I don't think that's anything. I don't think you're saying anything bold. But yeah, this the front seven of this San Francisco 49ers defense is fantastic. With Trey Greenlaw, Randy Gregory is just kind of a rotation rotation edge rusher, kind of guy that gets some pressure on the quarterback. This offensive line for Kansas City gives me some serious pause when it comes to going up against this edge rusher. I don't necessarily think they're going to go up against a front seven as good as this. I think they've gone up against defenses that are as good as this. Like the Baltimore Ravens defense had a better defense as a whole, especially in the back end. But when it comes to front seven, when it comes to getting pressure after the quarterback, this is the best unit who will play this season by far.
And what makes this 49ers defense so great, they're able to get home without blitzing. They can rush four, and they can just keep a spy in the middle of the field and drop everybody back in cover. So that front four and that defensive line, they make life so much easier for the back end of that of that 49ers secondary. But look, Kansas City's defense is no slouch.
Oh no,
Either.
I was getting to it. I was getting
Listen,
to it.
listen. They've been
I mean,
great.
they're the number 2 defense in the NFL for a reason. Like
Right.
George Karlaftis has had an outstanding second season. Chris Jones, after holding out that first game of the season, finally paid that man. He's been fantastic this year. Willie Gay, Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil from Fort Wayne. Actually, went to Carroll High School here in Fort Wayne. All three of those guys have been fantastic this season. Ladarius Sneed might be the best corner in the NFL right now. Trent McDuffie's been a fantastic player, either at the slot or at the nickel. Mike Edwards, Justin Reed, like this has been a loaded defense, and it's really going to come down to, I think it's going to come down to like which of these defenses is able to get the stop first. And my money's on San Francisco. I think they will be able to get the stop first. I think this is going to be a high scoring Super Bowl. I also think it's going to be a Super Bowl where you see a lot of running the ball. Isaiah Pacheco's probably going to have over 100 yards. Chris McCaffrey's going to have over 100 yards. Probably going to win Super Bowl MVP with three touchdowns in this game for Christian McCaffrey. I don't know if that's saying anything bold or not, but I think he's going to be the Super Bowl MVP. He will be, I think, like the fourth father-son duo to both win Super Bowls. So you got to love that story. Also, his dad was on one of those early San Francisco 49ers team. I think
he was.
Yeah, so I'm taking San Francisco. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think it'll be like 35-31. San Francisco. I expect this to be a well-played, fantastic Super Bowl. I do sort of want to see Drew Tranquil win this Super Bowl just because, he's from here where I live in Fort Wayne, went to Carroll High School. Yeah, so that's a nice story, but I think the San Francisco 49ers, this is a team they built this roster to achieve this goal, and anything less than not winning the Super Bowl is going to be a disappointment for them. They're also healthier at this point in the season. They have no players on their IR, on their injury report going into the Super Bowl, not one.
One thing I'm watching Kansas City, I want to see what they do to limit, because I think Debo is their most important player offensively. David, I call him the Joker of this offense because he's able to line up in multiple places. And he's effective. Lines up wide, lines up in the slot, takes jet sweeps, can line up in the backfield. But you notice that the 49ers are using him more in the capacity of a wide receiver due to the simple fact Christian McCaffrey's kind of made Debo Samuel a bit expendable. But anytime Debo has that football in his hand, something's going to happen. But also, watch number 11, Brandon Ayuk. He is their best pure wide receiver on the perimeter. And this is the guy that Brock Purdy targets. But when I look at Kansas City's offense, like you said, it's been dink and dump. It's been the quick passes. It's been finding Kelsey in the zone. And the one thing that the Chiefs are going to have to do, they're going to have to use that quick passing game because that's what neutralizes a pass rush.
Yep.
What they're going to see on Sunday in the Super Bowl.
And I do think it'll be interesting. Jerick McKinnon, supposed to be returning from IR. He hasn't played at all this season, but if they can get him and kind of utilize him a little bit, interesting. Because he was super important in their Super Bowl last year. I think Jerick McKinnon had 2 total touchdowns last year in the Super Bowl. Don't quote me on that, though.
I think he did. I think he did. And,
I think he had one. I think he had one rushing. I think he had one to the air.
Every team now has that running back that's not necessarily the runner out the backfield. He's almost like another wide receiver of some sort. So we can thank Bill Belichick and the Patriots for that, because how many times
James White,
a lot of their bingo. How many times on a lot of their Super Bowl winning teams did they have a guy and his specialty was what? Catching the ball out the backfield. That's it. Dink and dump, third and short, or getting the best possible mismatch with a linebacker or a safety in space and feeding him the football.
Let me ask you something. So let's just say hypothetically, Kyle Shanahan wins this Super Bowl. Okay. Mm-hmm. Where would you rank him among the pantheon of coaches in the NFL right now?
I think he's top 5 right now, because in the
reason with or without the Super Bowl, like if he wins the Super Bowl, where does that put him in the hierarchy?
It's gonna keep him in the top 5. Okay, here let's go down the list. So Andy Reid is the best in the business right now. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
I think you can make the argument that Kyle Shanahan might be the best X and O's offensive head coach in the NFL right now.
Yeah, but when it comes to in-game adjustments, There's
Yeah.
nobody better in our league than Big Red. So, okay, let's go down the list, David. And I want you to help me here, okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Andy Reid,
Okay. I'll give you Andy Reid at 1.
Mike Tomlin.
I would take Kyle Shannon over Mike Tomlin.
Really?
But I think it's close. I think it's real close. I mean, Mike Tomlin's kind of
Okay,
made.
so
He's been able to win games with just not a lot of going on.
So, okay, Reid, Tomlin, Shanahan, John Harbaugh.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think, who could that 5th spot go to? Wow.
I mean, is it too early to put D'Amico Ryans in that kind of conversation?
To be honest, I would go Sean McVay. I mean, Sean still has it, Sean, or you know who else I'm gonna give some flowers to right now? Kevin Stefanski, because this guy lost Nick Chubb, Deshaun Watson, playing with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and still got to the playoffs.
Dusted off Joe Flacco.
Yeah. And still got to the playoffs.
I think a Kyle Shanahan Super Bowl victory would do a lot for his legacy. Like I think so too. I think that he has, he's kind of become a punchline based on that 28-3. And I don't think it's really that much his fault. Yes, he was the offensive coordinator that allowed that to happen, but I think he's still, the defense still has to stop New England from scoring, and that did not happen in that Dan Quinn coach football team. I think this is so important for Kyle Shannon because you don't want to constantly be the runner-up. This will be the third. If he were to lose this one, it'd be the third Super Bowl that he falls short of. Completely on him or not, people are going to talk about it.
Okay, now I have a question for you.
Okay.
Where does Travis Kelce rank amongst the greatest tight ends of all time for you? Let's go down the list.
I've said this for a while. I think he's the greatest tight end ever. I think when you talk about his accolades and his just ability to be open all the time, his ability to stay healthy, him and Rob Gronkowski are the same age. Rob Gronkowski has been retired for 5 years.
Yeah, and
whatever the number is.
Yeah, and huge shout out to Rob Gronkowski, because when I met him, he couldn't have been a nicer guy. He's exactly what you see, rah party, laughing it up, goofy. But in between every break, when I was at the NFL on Fox pregame show, he's talking to kids, he's signing something. I mean, he truly loves the fans. And, honestly, yeah, he's in my top 5, Travis Kelce. So I'm gonna go from 5 to 1. Okay. 5 is a guy who better be getting that call to the Hall this week, Antonio Gates. I mean, look.
I think he will be in the Hall of Fame. Kent State, Golden Flashes, let's go, baby.
Just the fact that he didn't play college football, he's about to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer, that speaks volumes. And just the way he was kind of able to use basketball moves on the football field, I think that's what set him apart. Drew Brees always found him, but him and Phillip Rivers, I think Phillip Rivers is the reason why he's going to be the recipient of a gold jacket, right?
Yep.
4 is Kelce for me. I mean, if anybody has him ranked higher, I'm not going to argue it, but Travis Kelce, to me, after what I saw him do in the AFC Championship against Baltimore, it's like Baltimore knew he was coming, and they had no answer for him. That first touchdown that Mahomes threw, he couldn't have thrown that ball any better, and Kelce couldn't have positioned himself any better, because he's on a second-year safety in Kyle Hamilton, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just the way he's open, I've often referred to him as the Dirk Nowitzki of the NFL, because he does a lot of things that wide receivers do. Because think about it. Dirk was 7 feet, shooting the ball, right? Travis Kelce, they're lining him up wide. They're lining him up in a slot. They're giving him the ball on screen passes. I mean, the tight end position has really revolutionized itself within the last 15 to 20 years.
100%. I mean, tight ends are doing stuff that you've never imagined back when,
3, I'm going to have to go Gronk. I mean, Gronk at his peak he was dominant. He was probably the most dominant non-quarterback at his peak.
Yeah. I
Because
agree with you. He
listen,
literally couldn't be guarded. You couldn't put a safety on. He was too
it,
big. He would
they
just
right, right. And David, I'm gonna take it back because I know you remember this. You remember that game when they were playing Washington and Brady got him the ball on a drag route, and he's carrying 3 or 4 Washington
yeah,
defenders with
yeah,
him,
yeah,
65 yards.
yeah.
I mean, he was a grown man, or like TJ would say, right? Two is Shannon Sharp. Shannon was like that hybrid wide receiver tight end.
I mean, he was really the first to kind of break that mold, where like
Bingo,
really kind of what the tight end was really possible, capable
bingo.
of doing.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much took the words right out of my mouth. And number one, the best tight end I've seen is Tony Gonzalez. I mean, he was Antonio Gates before Antonio Gates. You know, that basketball background, just being able to position himself. But just imagine if he had a Super Bowl winning quarterback, you know, like a Peyton
I
Manning.
mean, he was already way down on his prime when he was in Atlanta with Matt Ryan. I mean, if he had
And
won that Super Bowl,
a lot of people say Matt Ryan may have been the best quarterback that he ever played with.
I mean that bar is awfully low because
That
the Kansas City, like Elvis Gerbach might have been the best quarterback he played with. Like,
or
was
Trent
like,
or Trent Green.
on Trent Green, yeah. All right, no disrespect to Trent Green, but Elvis Gerbach, Trent Green, like older Trent Green, like
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, look, when Tony dunked that ball on that goalpost, that means one thing. He just scored. He has the second most touchdowns in NFL history behind Jerry Rice. And he's the first tight end to go in on the first ballot. But there's one guy that doesn't get enough respect as far as tight ends go, and that's Kellen Winslow, because
yeah.
I think everybody that we just listed, they owe a lot of their game to Kellen because he was the first downfield threat as a tight end.
Yeah, he was part of Eric Coryell, like that offense for
Yup.
the Chargers back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Let's one more real quick. So let's talk about Mahomes.
Uh-huh.
If he wins, let's say he wins the Super Bowl and he wins the MVP, where does that put him on like the hierarchy of quarterbacks all time?
Well,
Like
I
you don't have
think
to you don't have to give me like the absolute just the number. Like if you think he's in the top 10, maybe he's already in the top 10 in your estimation. Where do you think Patrick Mahomes winning another Super Bowl? Where does that put him in the hierarchy? Not even of quarterbacks in the NFL today, all time.
I think he's top 10 all time. Just what he's been able to do and how he's become the face of the league in a short amount of time. I mean, I know a lot of people may not like me saying this, but what he's doing is very reminiscent of what Tom Brady was doing those
Yeah.
first few years in New England. I mean, getting the Super Bowls back to back, and I honestly think this is the one year where Patrick has shown the most mental toughness because this team wasn't great this year. I mean, wide receivers dropping passes left and right. Offense not necessarily scaring defenses as what we've seen in years past, but he made it work somehow, some way. I mean, handles his business against Miami, and then what was all people talked about before that game in Buffalo? It's his first road playoff game. We don't know how he's gonna fare, and what's he do? He goes into Orchard Park and sends Buffalo fans into a very long off season.
Very
Then,
cold offseason.
yeah, and then goes into Baltimore against the Ravens team, who have really been rolling, and wins the AFC Championship on the road. He amazes me. I mean, wow, because I mean, obviously, I think you'd agree, Brady and Peyton are the two best that I've seen, right?
Yeah.
And then right behind that is probably Drew Brees. Drew Brees is the most prolific passer in the history of our game. That dude could fit footballs into the tightest of windows, and he will make it work.
I think of this generation of quarterbacks. I think Patrick Mahomes. We're talking about his all-time standing. Like let's not like remove Joe Montana and those guys from the John Elway from the conversation. I think it's like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger. Maybe some order of that. Aaron Rodgers maybe instead of Ben Roethlisberger. But like,
okay, let me ask you this.
He's in the top 5 of this era of quarter. Like in the last 20 years, he's in the top. Yeah, he's there.
I think of this at this point now. we have to stop trying to put people in his bracket because he's in his own echelon. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look, I think the only guy who is close to him in that aspect, I'm not saying from, a championship standpoint because he's yet to win one, but he's beat him a couple of times and he even beat him in the playoffs. I'm talking about Joe Burrow. And I honestly think the only team that can beat the Chiefs in the AFC is the Bengals.
Where's Tom Brady and Joe Burrow when you need somebody to take out the Chiefs?
I'm just saying. I mean, you get where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, his only playoff losses have come to Joe Burrow and Tom Brady. He's beaten everybody else he's going up against.
Yeah, I mean, because I think honestly, this was Josh Allen's best year to beat him, but just couldn't get the job done. And I had picked Kansas City to beat Baltimore, and they went in there and handled their business. I mean, and here we are, Super Bowl 58, David.
Yep, 5 days away from the kickoff of Super Bowl.
Oh, David, before you close this thing out, man, when you come to New York, man.
I don't know, man. We'll see.
Yeah, come on, man. I'll take you around, okay?
We'll work that out, man. We'll make it happen. But yeah, check it out. Thank you very much for checking us out here at Prime Sports World. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. My name's David Huffman, right there from the Daily Blitz.blog. Mr. Christian Simpson. And Christian, what do we do here at the Prime, my friend?
We bring the heat, baby. The only way we know how.
Absolutely. We'll be back here tomorrow breaking down some NBA stuff. You guys all have a good.
Check them out.
Yeah.
Check my Prime Sports World family out. David, can you believe next year, I think it's like the 5th year that I'm going to be working with you guys? That's crazy.
Man, love it, dude. Love it.
I love it too, man.
I'll talk to you later, man. Have a good night, buddy.
All right, man. You too.
Peace.